Hi guys, let's go watching. Just before that, subscribe and enjoy yourself. Sitting outside, sipping tea on a bright day, mom and daughter were talking about magic. They were having a nice conversation when suddenly the young lady told her mother that if she got a chance to be reborn, she should live for herself and not give birth to a daughter. The woman was a little perplexed by her daughter's words and asked her why she suddenly said that. The young lady only replied that they had discussed rebirth in magic class, and she doesn't see anything wrong with that. The girl was sure that apart from some small things, life itself would not change, and promptly added that if she had the chance, she would refuse, from her mother. The daughter's words were a blow to the mature woman. Staring intently at the native blood, the woman only managed to ask if there was such a chance. In response, the girl said she was a mage and knew more. After listening to her daughter, the woman said with a chuckle that she was a sixth-rate mage, but in addition said that if she got the opportunity, she would not give birth to it. The girl was telling her mom to meet someone else, not her dad, someone who would be beautiful, caring, appreciative of her creativity. She remembered what her mom used to tell her about her first love. The girl told her mom to confess her feelings to him. The woman agreed. Late at night, a disaster occurred that no one expected. The wagon overturned. The woman suffered very serious injuries. The case was very severe. There was nothing anyone could do. The mage healer could only reduce the poor woman's pain and suffering. The woman only heard her daughter's whispers and lost consciousness. Upon waking up, the young lady didn't realize what was happening. She found herself in her parents' home, a fact that left her confused. She didn't sit in bewilderment for long. She was called out by her babysitter, saying she was going to be late for class. The girl didn't understand what was happening, for her nanny was dead 6 years ago. The nanny asked how the girl was feeling. The young lady said the nanny died years ago. The woman looked at her in bewilderment and only wondered if she was having a nightmare. The young girl decided to look in her diary. She was amazed when she started reading it. Seeing the entry, her diary folded, all pastel. It said it was only October and she was 19 years old. She realized she was reborn before she graduated from the academy and married Harold Hadley. Harold was the Baron's eldest son. Their family life wasn't bad, but it wasn't bright either. Harold was an honest man and lived by his conscience. He didn't squander money and loved their daughter. The young man was a source of pride to his mother. But he was less than perfect, spared jewelry for his daughter, and the simple pleasures of life were beyond him. They had an ordinary life with no colors. But one thing was special, their daughter, who was born with a talent for magic. The talent was ambiguous. The full realization came to the girl that she had been reborn and returned to the past. She suddenly remembered her mother who had died years ago. She hadn't had time to tell her she loved her. The girl ran toward her at full speed. Only the nanny yelled in her wake that she'd forgotten to put on her robe. While the young mistress was running, she remembered how her mother had gone deaf in the last years of her life. The girl spoke loudly at first, and it annoyed her, and then she switched to sign language. But when talking to her mother, the girl was constantly annoyed, and so it was on the last day of their meeting. The young lady was running, and a servant girl was coming towards her. She asked where her mother was. The latter answered her that she was in the garden, and in addition shouted that she could not enter the office in such a state. But the girl heard nothing. Reichen ran into the study of her father, who had contracted dementia in his old age. He looked at her with misunderstanding. The girl hugged her father, who in turn showered her with questions as to whether she was all right, and asked Sir Stermeld to wait a moment. The young lady was shocked when she saw the young man. Stelmer Raft was her first love. The man walked with his daughter out into the hallway. He wanted to know what had happened to her. The maid said that the girl had been acting like this since morning and would ask the doctor to examine her. But the girl replied that she had had a bad dream. Her father said she was having a serious conversation and he would stop by after lunch and they would be sure to talk. Reichen asked her father to tell Sir Sturdmel that she was very sorry that he had seen her in an inappropriate manner. The father wondered how his daughter knew him. Then he remembered that he graduated from the academy last year. But on top of that, he was the illegitimate son of the Raft family's daughter. and never once missed out on the top spot in the academy. The nanny said it was time for Riken to get ready for the academy. But after everything that had happened to her, the academy wasn't that important to her. But the nanny forbade her to skip school. The academy was not a simple school. It trained mages who had a talent for magic. Mages were the biggest force in the country. A talent for magic was rare. Girl mages who had talent didn't visit places where there were boys. But also aristocrats who had no talent were also forced to enter the academy. The girls did not want to study with the boys because the magician girls wanted to become great, so they did not want to compete with the boys. At the academy, etiquette was taught to make noble ladies out of girls. Immediately after receiving her education, the girl was getting married. Riken faced her mom and quickly came to her senses. They chatted the whole time. Her mother was worried about the flowers, as the fall was cold and the harvest was meager. Her daughter suggested she put several kinds of flowers in small jars. Mother was very pleased with the result. She was surprised that her daughter had such a talent for flowers. The woman asked her daughter if she had a problem, to which Riken replied that she didn't have any problems. She just wanted to talk to her, because it had been so long since they had spoken normally. Riken sincerely wanted to be kinder and more affectionate to her parents. She wanted to tell them that she loved them with a big hug to remember those unforgettable moments and feelings later. After the girl went back in time, she made a few changes in her life. Reconciled with her friend Polan, and picked out a new dress for the prom banquet. At first, no one liked the idea. When she was seen wearing the outfit, everyone was pleased. Also constantly told her parents that she loved them and Macaulay. The girl began diligently practicing painting. Also Riken, determined not to date Harold in her new life. She decided to listen to her daughter and not give birth to her until she was a new person. Riken's thoughts were interrupted. Her friend Deborah showed up. She was interested in who the girl would go to prom with. Riken replied that it was probably with her father. Deborah said the young lady is very boring and she needs to choose someone else. Deborah was excited about the prom because she dreamed of going to the prom with Lawrence. Riken smiled at her friend, but she knew that her companion in the future was always looking at a girl no older than 20. But the girl only said that her friend should not go far away from her companion. Deborah looked at her obliquely and said with a chuckle that she sounded like her aunts. Deborah asked Riken if she had someone she would like to go with, but Riken said the rest is up to his father. Riken stood in the rain, wondering why Penny hadn't come for her. The girl knew that if she went to the wagon, she would not be able to put on her dress, and she had better wait. The young lady liked to reminisce about the past, when suddenly she was called out. The young youth said hello to Lady Copland. Riken was very awkward standing next to Stermeld Raft. Since he saw her in her pajamas, she didn't know what to say or how to act. The girl modestly said hello in return. The young man introduced himself and said she could call him Stermald. In response, the girl introduced herself and also apologized for the previous encounter. The young man only said that the lady had nothing to apologize for and noticed that her father was something agitated. But the girl said it was all right and thanked him for his trouble. The girl stood silent and thought of the young man. She knew that the Mage Tower was in the academy, and so they crossed paths every now and then. Riken knew he was a genius since he mastered 2 elements at once, wind and water. The world will only learn of his greatness 2 years later, when the truth is revealed that his father is King Bjerden. Meanwhile, he is only the illegitimate son of Cyrionel, grandson of the Marquise, but by no means an aristocrat. After the queen's death, the king officially married Cyrionelli. The young man would later take his father's last name, but unfortunately he cannot inherit the title as he was not born legally. So the king, along with the queen, will give him the title Duke of Sagna. He would become a star of Soviet society. It will be very attractive and cool. Riken always looked at him from far away. She thought he was out of her league. Her reminiscence and reflection was broken by Stermeld. He timidly asked her if she was standing there because she had no umbrella. Riken said if she went, she'd ruin the dress. The girl waited for the maid to come and meet her. He timidly asked if she was cold. The girl said a little, but if she got colder than that, she'd stop by the workshop. The young man didn't realize there was a workshop in the building. The young lady said there is a painting circle workshop in the building. The young man said he has seen the exhibitions that are held in the main building. Reichen said there are hardly any people there, but Sterel said he visits them. The girl said that everyone in the academy wanted to stand out, so they did more magic, and drawing was more for the shy ones like her who had more time. Sterel contradicted her, saying she wasn't timid at all. The girl sneered, her mate obliquely looking at her, and said he wanted to walk her to the wagon. He was a mage and could easily deal with this weather. She hesitated for a long time, as she knew the Duke was cold to others, but still agreed. He led her toward the wagon. Reichen was shrouded in magic that kept her from getting wet. At the very moment when they were about to approach the carriage, a maid with an umbrella came out to meet them. Reichen said she was fine and didn't get wet. She thanked him, and he told her to get on the wagon soon, for it was cold. Reichen thought about what had happened, and having gathered courage, took a risk and invited her new acquaintance to the prom. The young man was surprised at such a question, but said he would gladly go with her if Viscount Copeland would allow it. After Reichen's mother found out what her daughter had done, she was furious. Everyone knew the young man was illegitimately born, and it was a big stain on the aristocrat family, despite all his merit in magic. The whole world knew of his origins, and there was no hiding it. Only 100 years ago, the Rafts were the ruling dynasty of the independent kingdom. Now her status was also different from the other two Marquis families within the empire. All of this has to do with Sir Stermelt, therefore is a huge obstacle to marriage. The girl explained to her mother that she was the one who called him, so it wasn't his fault, in addition to adding that it's not like she's asking for consent to the marriage, it's only a ball. The mother looked at her daughter in surprise and said she sounded like an adult. The mother interrogated the girl as to whether she would be bored if she went to the ball with her father. The girl said with a questioning smile that he didn't inspire their confidence at all, to which her mother laughed and said that they had a fine-mannered daughter, and she wouldn't have someone without permission. Mother told me that her ball was memorable. She attended it accompanied by Father Reichen. The daughter was glad that her mom was happy then and now. They were and still are a beautiful couple. Talking to her mom about such topics, Reichen suddenly thought of her husband, but unfortunately they didn't have such feelings. She was sure she was going to experience her life more joyfully this time around. She thought that thinking about Harold while she was asking permission to go with someone else was somehow wrong and pushed the thoughts away. Reichen sat writing a letter to a young man. As suddenly, out of the blue, the maid asked her if she could ask the doctor for a medicine that could calm her agitation. But the young lady said she wasn't worried at all and didn't take him seriously. She assured me they were only going to the ball. The maid was very glad that the girl had the courage to invite him. She assured Reichen that if he didn't like her, he wouldn't have agreed to go with her. Reichen told Penny not to tell anyone about it. Unnecessary rumors weren't good for her. The maid was happy to see the girl so happy. She was genuinely happy for her. Following the casual conversation, Reichen told Penny that if she had any problems or a lover, she could always come to her, because the young lady was a very informative friend. Reichen had learned in her past life from her nanny that the maid had quit in a hurry because she had become pregnant and had hastily married a man 8 years older than her. Penny was very embarrassed and delighted at the suggestion. Reichen wrote a letter to Stermelt. In it, she again expressed her gratitude for his help. She also wrote that her mother had given permission and she was looking forward to seeing him. Stelmer opened the letter Reichen had sent. He was surprised as the girl put lavender petals into the letter. The scent instantly wafted around the room. A friend, and by proxy a servant, was genuinely astonished at what he saw, saying that such letters were written by unmarried ladies. He thought that Stermerd wasn't interested in girls, as he had turned many down, since he turned down even the first handsome heiress of the Earl of Melland. Stelmer didn't know what kind of person this girl was, but he knew she was crazy about him. His servant kept asking from whom the letter had come. The young man said there was nothing special. He had simply arranged to escort Viscount Copland's daughter to the ball. The servant was puzzled. The young man in turn pondered about the letter. The girl had very neat handwriting, and he liked that she wrote only to the point. He thought that even if the girl had an interest in him, it didn't show in the letter. There wasn't a hint of concern in it. Gerald was very puzzled. He knew that the girl was not remarkable at all, and did not understand why suddenly Stermeld decided to go to the ball with her. To which the young man replied that he could not refuse her, because she had the courage to invite him, adding that it was just for one time, nothing special. Stelmer decided to change the subject of their conversation and asked Gerald if he had solved the problem of the boomerang effect, since he had to present a project to stabilize the world's climate in 3 days. Riken was so anxious before the meeting that sleep wouldn't come to her, but she didn't want to face the mud. Just then, a maid suddenly came running to her and suggested that she put a red fish to her face, but the girl refused, saying there would be no effect and she might smell blood, and asked me to take it to the kitchen. Riken said she asked the butler to leave her some honey. Penny said she'd bring everything over quickly. While Penny went to run errands, Riken picked out an outfit. She marveled at her taste. There were too many ruffles on her dresses, and she thought such outfits looked more like country outfits. She, in turn, wanted an outfit that made her look soft and defenseless. So upon the arrival of the maid who brought the honey, asked her to remove the lace from her outfit. Penny agreed, only saying that such a process would take a bit of time and might not turn out very neatly. Riken responded by saying that any irregularities could be covered up with a handkerchief, and asked that Penny go to her mother's house and get one from her closet. Riken said that after the work was done, they would both slather themselves in honey. The girl was in joyful shock at what she heard, and only said that she could not, for honey was very valuable. Riken said that 1 spoonful wouldn't bankrupt her house. Penny excitedly ran to run errands. Mixing honey and wine, Riken remembered how she and her daughter used to do that before bedtime, and after her daughter went to bed, she would gently wipe it all off her face. She missed her daughter very much. Mother Riken sent a new handkerchief in a box for her daughter instead of borrowing one of her own. The mother told her daughter that she had set the whole house on edge by searching for jewelry for the dress. Riken put her hair up, her mother said, looking very old-fashioned, but it suited her. The young lady said that fashion is making a comeback. In addition to the jewelry, the mother gave her daughter a ring that she no longer wore, but had been given to her by her husband before the wedding. Their gathering was interrupted by a servant who announced the arrival of a guest. It was Ser Stermeld. Stelmer came to visit the young lady, but he didn't come empty-eyed. He came with flowers. The girl was surprised. He asked her what she didn't like about flowers as she stared at them. Riken replied that they were very beautiful and thanked him and invited him to drink tea. They sat down to the table and began to talk casually about the room in which they were sitting, which used to be used for music lessons. But since there were no more people in the house who played instruments, it was used for tea parties and had a marvelous view of the garden. Stelmer recognized the ginkgo trees in the garden. The girl said that Mother planted them and they have many trees that fall differently. And when you walk around the garden, the foliage looks very romantic. The young man said he understood her, for walking in such a garden was much better than walking on a stone path. Riken asked the maid to bring a glass vase, and in addition, apologized for the inconvenience it was causing Sir Shedmel. He was genuinely surprised, and said on the contrary that it was he who was making her uncomfortable, for she had asked permission from her mother. Stelmer thought she contacted him out of ignorance, and when she found out who he was, sent a letter of apology. For Sir Stermeld is different from other bastard children of aristocrats. When his mother, Lady Sirianelle, was in her position, she was abandoned by a man, all pointing fingers that she would have a child out of wedlock. The girl said that he and his mother had no reason to worry, and in that case she was also calm. Riken realized what she had said and hastily apologized. But the young man said she had nothing to apologize for, adding that not many people stay with him for such a reason. The girl was embarrassed and said that wasn't the reason. Before he could finish speaking, a maid came in. The girl brought the vase and embarrassedly apologized for the disturbance. Riken asked Stermelt why he bought asters and not some other flowers, for these flowers are not used as often in a bouquet as roses and lilies. Stelmer asked Riken if she didn't like the flowers, but the young lady said she liked these flowers much better than the gorgeous ones. Stelmer asked, surprised at the girl, if she wanted to put flowers without water. But the girl only laughed and said she would pour water later and add sugar to it. The young man filled the vase with water with one wave of his hand and said he had added some magic to make the flowers stand longer, and now she could add the sugar they had at tea time. The girl thanked the young man, saying that his magic was an incredible miracle. Oni was embarrassed after her words and said he hadn't done anything special. Penny came over and brought them what Reichen had asked for. The girl kindly donned a velvet tie and asked Sir Stermelt to match her suit to the color of her dress. He was surprised when he saw that she chose the gray color of the dress, because the ball is usually dressed something bright, to which the girl replied that she is not very suitable for red, and she will be more comfortable in another color. Stelmer was touched by her gift and wanted to meet her again. So he asked Reichen to help him in the selection of pannikins, as he had nothing suitable for a Soviet banquet. The girl happily agreed. Reichen asked Penny to leave the flowers and clean up where they were sitting. She wanted to think alone about their meeting. She enjoyed her time with Stermeld. However, she remembered her husband and her daughter. The girl missed her very much. Reichen met with Mariella. The young lady was absolutely delighted and almost shouted with happiness that Reichen would go to the ball with Stermeld and that they would have a meeting tonight. She couldn't believe what she heard and asked who would accompany them on the walk. Reichen said the babysitter would go with them. Mariella was sure that the young man liked Reichen very much, because the first time he might have agreed out of politeness, but then he just started looking for an excuse to meet. So on top of that, when they met, they had a wonderful atmosphere. No tension. Their sweet conversation was interrupted by Polana. Mariella quickly and loudly said that Reichen would be going to the prom with Mr. Stermeld. Polana was as surprised as Mariella when she found out. Their friendly conversation was disturbed by the Earl of Wayne's daughter, the first beauty. They had never bonded or socialized, though they were the same age. The girl came closer to the three young ladies and said that she had heard them talking about Sir Stermeld and asked them to tell her. Reichen said that her father was friends with Sir Stermeld and he decided to escort the girl to the ball. The young beauty was a little puzzled by what she heard, as her young man did not notice her. They talked some more and she left the three girlfriends. Reichen was sitting in the academy when suddenly a bird flew to her. She learned from whom, and that it was the Madogu bird. Through the bird, the girl could communicate with Stermeld. The young lady was delighted and said many compliments to the young man. He was honored and thanked her. He also asked when her classes were over. The young men agreed to meet outside the academy. Reichen's friends heard everything and were excited and pleased. Reichen says they'll just go pick out cufflinks, and that's it. The girl said goodbye to her friends, and coming out, a young lady looked at her with a leer who liked Sir Stermeld, but to her regret he did not favor her. Walking out, Reichen reflected on Lady Wayne as she was very angry. She also had trouble with her shoes, which had a high and very thin heel. She found it difficult to walk unaccompanied. Reichen's musing was interrupted by Stermeld. He came over, said hello, and said he would carry her books. Everyone was whispering around him. The girl said they were not heavy, and she would carry them herself. But he insisted, so Reichen gave them up. The young man clarified if her maid was coming today. The girl said the nanny was coming. But there are a lot of people near the academy, so it should be on the wagon. Stelmer took Reichen's hand, and they walked toward the wagon. The darling young lady pondered their meeting, her heart fluttering. She was falling more and more in love with him. A young man disturbed her musings. He saw that she was thinking about it, and he said that if she didn't like something, she should just say so. The girl timidly said it was fine. It was just her first time. They walked quietly to the wagon. Nanny was there waiting for them. Reichen introduced them to each other. They were riding in a wagon, and the road seemed to Reichen quite different from the road to the jewelry store. The girl timidly asked where they were going, to which Stermeld replied that he wanted to surprise her. They arrived on the scene. Stelmer politely offered his hand to Reichen, and the girl stepped off the wagon. He smelled the paint, but when he saw where they had come, he was overjoyed. They arrived at Inzola Street. The girl asked him with a smile why they had come here if they were going to go for the cufflinks, to which the young man only replied that he remembered their conversation and had decided to come to the place, and added that if it was hard for her to walk, they could look at the neighborhood. Reichen said it was all right. She'd really dreamed of being here. Stelmer asked if she had ever been to this place. The girl said that one should not go to such places alone, and that was why her butler bought all the tools for painting. Stelmer suggested that Reichen go shopping and buy something herself. She was very pleased. Reichen told Nanny that if she didn't want to go shopping, she could stay on the wagon, but Nanny said she would go with them. Walking down the road, Stermeld rose to think about the surprise and concluded that he would ask her about such things next time. He thought about their next meeting and smiled. Reichen liked his smile and decided to ask why he was smiling. He only said he was glad to see them. In addition, said girl makes people around her feel comfortable. Reichen said with a smile that he was a master at compliments. The young man smiled and said it was the first time he had heard of such a thing. Entering the shop, they were greeted by the owner. He said hello and introduced himself. Reichen said it's an amazing place with colors and paintings. Kartal was very flattered by her words. He thanked her for the nice words. Kartal said that all the paintings are by young artists, and most aristocrats are looking for masterpieces and do not accept this style at all. Reichen admired robots. Kartal suggested they go up to the second floor, where there are lots of materials for creativity. The girl was having a nice conversation with Kartal. She was having fun. Stelmer was pleased that she was enjoying everything. They were going up to the second floor. Stelmer offered his arm and they walked slowly. The nanny stared after them. She wondered who Reichen was interested in. She was amazed that it was Stelmer. He was the illegitimate son, albeit grandson, of the Marquis of Raft. She was puzzled as to why Reichen's parents allowed them to meet. Going up to the second floor, Reichen was pleasantly surprised by the variety of instruments. She asked Stermeld curiously if he was painting. Stermeld evasively replied that no, he was only admiring the paintings on the first floor. Also, the young man said he came here because of magic. Water mages have a hard time recognizing the power if they have multiple streams of water. So if you add paint, it will be easier to distinguish between streams. The store owner interrupted their conversation by saying that Stermerd had been buying a full week's worth of sketchbook and pencils, to which the young man evasively replied that he just wanted to sketch. Hearing this, Reichen asked to see the sketches. He gently said he had no talent, adding that her work he would look at since she practiced. But Reichen only said she wasn't sure what she was doing. Kartal said that if you capture the flow of water that appears when you use magic, it will be a masterpiece, and everyone will stand in line to buy the paintings. Stelmer said it won't be art at all. Kartal said with a chuckle that he was interested in art, since he knew the philosophy of drawing. Kartal asked what they were interested in. Stelmer said he wanted to look at some purple colors and how it would interact with water. He picked up the cufflinks and said he would put magical stones instead of gems. Magic stones are a magician's primary tool. They hold the mana within them. Each magician has his own item. Reichen's daughter created a magical tool out of a pocket watch, but she didn't use it much as there wasn't much mana in there. Stelmer wanted to buy Reichen brushes and paper, but the girl refused because she had never personally bought anything before. The girl was choosing which color would work best, but she had no idea what color would be better suited for magical stones. Stelmer said he could show her the stone creations, but not here, as the store doesn't have the right materials. The young man suggested she visit the Mage Tower tomorrow or the day after and attend the creation herself. Almost forgetting, the girl held out to the young man the bird he had sent her. She wanted to return it as she could not accept such an exquisite magical thing. But he flatly refused and said that they could address through it only by literal little notes, or the bird can serve as a decoration or paper holder. Reichen asked Kartal if he had any magical items in his shop, but he said he was more interested in jewelry than magic. A lot of magical items are bought for decor. Some of them have expired and are used as parts for decoration. Stelmer began showing how to use the bird. It is necessary to roll the note thinly, tuck it into the beak, and launch it. The girl still insisted on her own. She couldn't accept it. But Stermeld said if you don't use the bird, it can serve as a decoration. He wondered if it was the bird that Reichen didn't like since she was refusing. But Reichen replied that she liked it a lot, but it was too valuable. Stelmer thought for a while and said that if she didn't have any use for the bird, she could return it and he would use the bird for paper. Reichen agreed, but added, she said not now, but in a few months. The shopkeeper kindly thanked them for the goods they had bought and told them that there was an exhibition in one of the streets today and there were many interesting works. And Nanny offered to have some overseas tea with him. Nanny looked at him intently and only managed to say that the tea was very expensive. Kartal, with a smile on his face, only said that tea was expensive and so he should buy her a drink. Reichen told Nanny they would be back soon and hurriedly left. In pursuit, the woman shouted that if they didn't return in an hour, she would go after them herself. Walking down the steps, Reichen said that Kartal knows how to dawdle, as the nanny is very stubborn. Stelmer said with a smile that he is like a friend who knows what the other person needs. They were walking around. They were having a lot of fun. Seated on a bench, Reichen was looking at a sketchbook and saw a drawing by an artist. What she saw gave her a pleasant shock. They were Rodrigo's drawings. An artist named Rodrigo would become very famous 20 years later, but unfortunately for him, he only gained his popularity after his death, and his work quickly spread around the world. The salesman said they were just sketches and not worth the attention of such a noble lady. But Reichen didn't agree with him. The girl really wanted to buy the sketch. The man said it could be bought for 1 silver coin. After hesitating, he said he could buy it even for 50 bronze coins. Stelmer overheard their conversation and said he would buy it for Reichen. Reichen didn't know what to say, but the young man said it would just be a souvenir. Reichen acquiesced and asked him if he could give 2 silver moments. Stelmer said it wouldn't be enough for her gift. He handed over the coins and said to divide them equally without cheating. The seller agreed. Reichen said she'd really like to meet, so she asked the salesman to tell him to come to Viscount Copland's house. The seller was surprised. Reichen said have her ask Reichen Copland when she comes in and get a cash reward. The seller was very pleased. After thanking her, he ran off at full speed to the artist. Stelmer was surprised and only asked of Reichen that she wanted to sponsor an artist. The girl said it would be interesting, but sadness crept into her thoughts. She was sad that such a talented artist had not seen his success in his lifetime. Stelmer said they still have time to go to an exhibit at the Rosenthal Gallery. Reichen Suzal that the exhibits there are outstanding. They will still have a chance to be there. The young lady admitted that usually all masterpieces, as they like to be called, she doesn't really like them. Stelmer was in complete agreement with her. Reichen asked which painting from the ones he had seen he liked best. He was unaware of that beautiful painting. It was untitled and without mention of the author. Stelmer suggested sitting down in the cafe and continuing the conversation, which would be a bit of a break. But the girl was a bit against it as they had a babysitter waiting for them and the weather had deteriorated. But Stelmer calmed her down and they went to the cafe. He said he was willing to listen to the scolding, but he just wouldn't let her go any further knowing her feet hurt. Stelmer asked if the girl liked coffee, but Reichen said she rarely drinks it. He excused himself for a few minutes, and the young girl rested a little from her walk. He brought her a cloak since it was cold. She thanked him. Stelmer said he ordered specialty coffee, and it will have to wait a while. Reichen said he wasn't really thirsty, so that's okay. Stelmer asked the girl if she was drinking coffee. Reichen said tea is favored in their house. She'd heard somewhere that coffee wasn't good to drink, and asked Stermelt how often he drinks it. Stelmer said that it is a very popular drink in their Mage Tower and that the castle master's fairy brings coffee to everyone in the morning. It's pretty rich and dark, which is why it's called Hell's Mud. The girl was surprised how one could drink it with a name like that. Stelmer said it's impossible not to drink it after lunch. Laughing, the girl said that all mages are like that. Her daughter drank coffee all the time and then stayed awake all night. Stelmer asked in surprise if she had a mage she knew. The girl embarrassedly said she was just tired and it was getting cold, so she offered to have a coffee and walk back. The coffee arrived. It was decorated with a drawing. There was a heart. Reichen immediately remembered her daughter, who was also a coffee drinker. She even prepared a machine at home to make coffee and later taught the servants. The maid's skills were incredible. She even learned how to make drawings, and her daughter was wrong every time, and the cup was constantly dirty. Stelmer asked what she was thinking about so much. The girl embarrassedly apologized, saying there were a lot of thoughts and she was a bit distracted. He gently touched her hand and told her she was completely shivering. Reichen was embarrassed by his action. Stelmer said he would love for Reichen to focus more on him. The girl embarrassedly said that he was being too nice to her. Stelmer said it's not a courtesy and she sees him as too nice a person. He admitted to her that he wouldn't waste his time on anyone he had no interest in. Stelmer said he's looking after her and it's not just a courtesy. Reichen was very embarrassed by his words and only managed to say that it was going to rain soon and the babysitter was already waiting for them. Reichen lay there and kept thinking about Stermelde. She knew no good would come of this and made the decision that it had to stop. It didn't have to go this far. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of the maid, who informed her that Reichen had a guest, an artist. Reichen said to have the maid take him to the parlor and she would be down shortly. The young artist sat in the living room and could not think that such a lady was interested in his work. He had seen the paintings in the house and couldn't understand why he had suddenly been summoned. They sincerely hoped he wouldn't be scolded. His thoughts were disturbed by the maid. She said that the mistress would be a little late, so he could have a snack for now. The artist ate quickly, as he had been starving lately. Mentally, he favored her. Reichen stepped out to her guest. He was very shy and embarrassed. The artist timidly introduced himself. Reichen saw that he wasn't very comfortable and said that he should talk to her as he was comfortable. Reichen said she really liked his paintings and wanted to sponsor him. Rodrigo froze with shock. He didn't understand what such a young lady saw in his paintings. She said she had seen his paintings and liked them very much. Since her hobby is drawing, she understands a little about art. Reichen said that after looking through his work, she saw technique and incredible underlying emotions that are impossible to capture without having innate talent. The girl said she wanted to invest in his paintings, and if he needed any instrument, he could buy it and put it all in her name. Rodrigo thanked her happily, and he said that he would create the greatest works. The artist also asked what he could do for her. Reichen said that if in the future he has more sponsors more influential than her, she would like him to just name her as his first sponsor. Reichen signed the contract and gave it to the butler, who in turn was to take it to the shop. Butler was puzzled that the girl was sponsoring someone. Reichen was looking at the painting when her father came in. As soon as Rodrigo got home, he took the painting and handed it to the butler. The painting was a masterpiece. Looking at the painting, her father asked if she liked it. Reichen asked if he liked her. He looked at the map and embarrassedly said he probably didn't. Reichen said there would be no important guests in the music room and it could be hung there. Dad agreed. He was surprised that she decided to sponsor an unknown artist. The young lady said it was only a little help. Her father looked at her and said that at such a young age, not many people think about such things. Reichen went to walk her father to the study and was going to make tea later. Her father asked about Stermelde. He wondered if she liked spending time with him. He was very worried, or else he didn't think he was very nice. But Reichen said he was very polite and courteous. Her father didn't want to interfere in their relationship, but he said they should stop seeing each other as he is a water and air mage and a very dangerous man. During the conversation, Reichen asked how they met Sir Stermelt, since their family is not related to the Raft family in any way, and they are far from politics. Her father tells Reichen that they met while doing a job. On the Orpend property to the south, the dam in the center of the river collapsed 3 years ago. Its further destruction would lead to serious problems. But unfortunately, there were no free mages available. One had to go directly to Stermeld. If the young mage refused to help, things would get worse. The young mage, upon seeing the man, urgently decided to help and went to solve the problem immediately after their conversation. Thanks to Sir Sturdmel, many problems were avoided. Reichen was surprised she didn't know that. The man said they knew each other a little, but not intimately. After their conversation, her father said that if he made her happy, he wouldn't mind, but added that her mom would certainly mind, but her daughter's happiness was more important. Also, Reichen's father said that Stermerd should take care of her. Reichen looked at her father in surprise and only mumbled that she would pass on his words to him. Reichen left her father after their conversation and was going about her business when suddenly she was called out by her nanny. She brought her a letter from Sir Stermelt. The woman gave the letter to the girl, but told her to be sure to show it to her. It was her mother's orders. Reichen opened it and saw beautiful flowers scattered all over the room. In the letter, Sterel wrote that he was genuinely worried that it had rained cold yesterday, and she might have caught a cold, apologizing for his stupidity. He sent an invitation to the Mage Tower to show her how magic tools are made. In response to her letter, in which she added flowers, he added a floral scent to the letter. Sterel waited impatiently for her answer. After reviewing the letter, Nanny said that there was nothing to pick on, and that the girl should ask her mother's permission to visit the Mage Tower. Penny said that Riken had to look good before the meeting, and she would make her a mask with cucumbers and honey and give her a bath with roses. "Riken?" asked Penny. "Did she happen to be in love?" The maid became embarrassed and said she couldn't say yet, but Riken did convince her. Penny said they were introduced by the head maid also, that he sells fruits, vegetables on the street, and supplies the kitchen. He's a little older. Riken thought back to the days when she married, Penny got engaged, quit her job, and left the capital. It wasn't until 20 years later that Riken heard the news about Penny. But she didn't know how the girl lived, whether she was happy. Penny was running at full speed to get everything ready for Mistress. Meanwhile, Riken was thinking. She wanted to find out about Penny's lover. By the time Penny arrived, Riken was ready for her treatments. They did everything they set out to do and more. Both girls were deliriously thrilled with the result. Riken was sitting in her room. As she considered the letter, she pondered about Sterel. He was so considerate of people close to him, such a thing, at least she had heard in the past, and also heard that his wife could not melt his heart in any way. But nothing bad could be said about their family. He was courteous and polite to her, but he was terribly cold toward her. It was a marriage of convenience. That afternoon, Sterel received a letter from Riken. And also with the letter came a visitor whom he had not expected to see. "A messenger from the Emperor has arrived." He changed for such an uninvited welcome and got straight to the point. The man said he brought a gift from the Emperor. Putting the brooch on the table, he said that the stone in this brooch is very valuable, and such a stone is not to be found almost anywhere. Even the wealthiest aristocrats cannot afford such luxury. He asked if Sterel liked the gift. Sterel all but asked why such a gift all of a sudden. The man, hesitating, replied that the Emperor had thought it over and wanted to take care of his son. Sterel was genuinely displeased, as he believed that for him to have accomplished nothing in magic, his father wouldn't even look at him. While he was growing up, his father showed no attention. The young man asked to take the gift and left in a hurry. Riken walked to the meeting at the tower. It did not seem to her so majestic, since she had visited it in a past life. They were met by Sterel and his apprentice water mage, Rold Maximo. They said a polite hello. Upon seeing the girl, Rold chatted sweetly with her and said that he was happy to see the girl who was able to melt his teacher's heart. Sterel called them politely and casually into the tower. They all went to the Tower of Mages. Sterel said that before showing how magic tools are created, he would like to show one place. The young man said that the tower is rarely visited by non-magical visitors, and it's hard to just walk into it. In the blink of an eye, a ladder appeared out of nowhere. Sterel said the ladder was created out of thin air. He assures Riken that if he's around, she doesn't have to worry about lifting. Walking up, the girl saw no one near her. Sterel said everyone has their own way into the tower, and also added that the tower is very large and they will not be able to visit all the offices in one day. Riken lost sight of the babysitter and her new acquaintance. She didn't hesitate to ask Sterel if they were all right and if they had accidentally gotten lost. The young man said, quickly clarifying now. He stepped back and magically contacted the apprentice. The one said that he had accidentally entered the room of limitless mirrors of light by mistake. Sterel told Riken not to worry and he would bring the babysitter to the office. They just went the wrong way and got in the wrong room, and it would take them about 2 hours to get out of it. Sterel knew that Harold had been in the tower for 4 years now, and he simply could not make such a mistake. Walking down the stairs, Sterel asked Riken if it was true that she was sponsoring an artist. Riken said that she is very happy to help the artist because she really likes his work, and he has already given her one painting from which the girl cannot take her eyes off. Reichen asked Stermeld if he had that piece by an unknown artist that he liked so much. But Stermeld said sadly that he couldn't buy it because it wasn't for sale, and he said she might know the artist. Stermeld told how he had looked into the gallery last year and saw a painting with purple flowers. They were strikingly unusual. Reichen realized he was talking about her painting. She heard from the middleman that someone wanted to buy her painting, but she had no intention of selling it, and the fact that he wanted to buy her painting made her proud of herself. Stelmer said that to pass into the woods, they would need to make a ditch and climb up. He slipped his arm around her waist, and they moved upward. He opened the door, and they entered the woods. The young man said that the best place for mages to practice is nature and the forest. He told the history of the forest, and that the mages of the earth are in charge of this place. Reichen really liked the forest. Stelmer said they will be creating a gunite at this location using a lake that has clean water. Young man, I've begun to work my magic. Using paint and water from the lake, he created a rock. The site was indescribably red. He easily did everything necessary and was happy with the result. Reichen asked him to give her the stone. After looking at the masterpiece, she was amazed at the beauty of the stone and said that not every mage could make such beauty. Stelmer said the turret enhances his abilities, and it's pretty uncomplicated to do since he has a lot of mana. Stelmer explained the essence of magic and how to use it. He said that mages practiced a lot in the tower and gained experience and could create beautiful things without much difficulty. That's why most mages walk around with books and study. Suddenly, their sweet conversation was interrupted by a snake. Reichen was very frightened, but Stermeld said it was just a messenger. His students said they needed to meet in the office. After listening to them, Reichen said they had better go to the study and meet with the babysitter. Stermeld said he asked to be addressed simply as Styr. She mewed. After their meeting in the tower, they met in the city. Walking around the city, Reichen asked Shedder why he was sad at the time of the meeting. Stelmer said that before their meeting, he had been visited by a crony of the Emperor. He said that upon learning that Stürmerd had become Tower Lord, the Emperor decided to congratulate him and sent him a gift. But he refused the gift and sent a servant. The girl, having heard him out, she said that she couldn't help him in any way, but she could listen to him at any time, so that if he was worried about anything, he could tell her everything without any problems. Reichen read the list of places to go, but Stermeld said it was between fall and winter, so going to most places wouldn't work, but you could go there in the spring. Reichen nodded in agreement, but realized that this day would not come next spring. She thought of her daughter. Reichen looked at the painting of her daughter, and there was no way she could finish it. Later, the very picture that Sir Shedmel had liked came into her field of vision. The girl wondered if she should give it to her as a parting gift. But her musings were interrupted by the arrival of the maid. Reichen told Penny to tell the coachman to have him load the painting and she would take it home. Reichen was going to go to a tea party at Mrs. Polana's house, and it would not be a simple meeting, but a tea ceremony, and there would be men there besides the girls. Penny was a little surprised. Penny asked if that would be okay and if Sir Stürmald would be okay with it. Reichen just said that it wouldn't be a big deal there, and they're not a couple at all. Reichen asked Penny how her relationship was going. The girl said they are doing well and see each other every weekend. Reichen was happy for her, but said that if she had any problems, she should have her come to her right away. The tea ceremony was organized by Cold-Blood Olivia, wife of Viscount Edgen, sister of Polan. Earl Wayne's daughter and none of Reichen's friends were there. The young lady apologized for being a little late and asked if she had missed anything. Earl Wayne's daughter said that there was nothing in particular, only some gossip about the Empress's suffering. Reichen was surprised at such news. Lady Wayne said that the Empress didn't want anyone outside the palace to know about it, so it's being kept hidden because Empress Izaria's coming-of-age ceremony is coming up. Lady Wayne said she was not very ill, just a little tired, and put Miss Damon in charge of all her affairs. Reichen knew that the Empress would not recover and would die after a while. And 8 months after her death, Will be the Empress of Sturmeld's mother. This was done so that Sturmeld would inherit the title before Azaria's ceremony. As a young girl, Reichen could not understand the gravity of the situation. But as soon as she matured, she realized how hard it was for the woman. The Empress did not know the history of the kingdom and his affair. She learned of Stermelt's birth after a year of his life. She wanted to meet the person who gave him life. She wrote her a letter and made an appointment, but the lady politely declined. The Empress had no one to whom she could tell her experiences. The accumulated grief took its toll on her health. The Empress became seriously ill and soon died. The girls were sitting nicely and discussing all the news. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of the men. Reichen was surprised she saw Harold. She called him by name. He was surprised how she knew him. The girl embarrassedly said that they had seen each other before. He introduced himself to her. She was puzzled as to why they were meeting, since their meeting was supposed to be a little later. At the tea party, everyone had fun and socialized. Reichen approached the reception mistress and told her it was time for her to leave. The girl rode in the carriage and thought about what had happened. She didn't understand how he could not have known they would live 20 years. She thought she might not meet her daughter and didn't understand what she should do now. Reichen came home. The butler said that she had a guest waiting for her for 3 hours. It was Stermeld. She was genuinely surprised by his arrival. The girl entered the room where he was waiting for her. Stelmer looked at a painting he had seen before and wanted to buy. The young man said he now realized why he liked the painting, because it was her painting. Reichen decided to change the subject by asking him what was wrong. They didn't make an appointment. Stelmer said he'd come to see the Viscount and he wanted to see her, as he has to leave for Raft's native land tomorrow morning on important business and they won't be able to see each other for a while. The girl was puzzled by what she heard, but she knew what a difficult situation the young man was in. Stelmer reflected on his fate as a hermit and son of the outlaw. If he could, he'd live his whole life like that. But something changed in an instant. He wanted to have a home and hold someone's warm hand and hear children's laughter. Stelmer was very surprised because he had only met Reichen a couple of months ago, but in those couple of months, she had healed his wounds with her presence in his life. He wanted to spend all his time with her. He thought back to his conversation with the Viscount. Reichen's father did not want to interfere in their relationship, but fearing for his daughter, he made decisions to talk to Stermeld. The Viscount said he didn't want him to ruin his daughter's life. Since Stermeld is a bastard son, this is already a problem, and for lack of a title, he will allow their marriage to take place. Even if his title changes to a higher title, they can't be together either, as Reichen will be unequal to him. Stelmer listened to the Viscount very attentively and said that he would settle the matter. The Viscount only sighed and said that he was very stubborn. Stelmer told Reichen that he would be back in time for the ball and asked her to wait for him. The girl was amazed at what she heard and realized that he wanted to confess his feelings to her and spend his life with her. Reichen realized that if she accepted his offer, she would not be able to see her daughter. She didn't know what to do and cried. Stelmer looked at her in bewilderment and asked what she was crying about. But Reichen couldn't answer anything. The young man kissed her with all tenderness. Reichen sat back and thought about the situation. Penny walked in and asked if she was okay, as she heard her crying. Reichen said it's okay, she just wants to be alone. Reichen's mom came over and they ate and drank tea. Mother asked if she felt better. Reichen said with a smile, much. And then she remembered how she herself had once brought treats to her daughter, and she in turn brought them to her as she grew older. Mother casually asked what had happened between the young men. Reichen said he would probably propose to her after he returned. Mother knew that such a day was coming soon and said that father was okay with it, and so was she, but she wasn't thrilled about it. Reichen said she would probably turn him down. After all, if she accepts such an offer, she will never meet her daughter. Reichen explained to her mother that she just wanted to remember her prom, and she would have many memories of it. Reichen said, walking her mom to the bedroom. On the way, the girl asked her mother if she would marry her father again if she were reborn. The woman said she wished she could give birth to her again and watch her grow, as well as rebirthing her younger brother and taking over his upbringing sooner. A couple days later, they received an invitation from the house of Baron Roland. Reichen asked her mother to go with her and look at the outfits. They went to pick out an outfit and jewelry to go with it. The mother had heard that her daughter had seen the Baron. so she clarified if it was true. The girl said she had seen him, and he seemed a very nice man, and she wouldn't mind seeing him. Mother was pleased and said that if that was what she wanted, a meeting could be arranged for them to talk. Riken knew she had to act. It was the only way she would be able to see her daughter in the future. The age difference between them was not great, so there was nothing to stop them from getting married. Going to the reception, Riken saw that it was just her and her future husband with the young people. Her musing was interrupted by Harold's mother. The woman decided to introduce herself. Riken said hello, but asked if she would mind when she formally introduced herself. The woman said no, that would be the right thing to do. Riken appeared before the mistress of the house, the elderly Baroness Roland. The woman couldn't hear well, so Riken had to speak loudly. Everyone who saw what was happening was very touched by her calmness and politeness. The ladies whispered that the girl was very good to the elders. They also said she needed to find a good man sooner and get married sooner. They said she was beautiful, well-mannered, and someone would be very lucky to have a bride. The embarrassed girl thanked everyone for their kind words. As Lawrence's mother here said, Riken will treat the elders very well when she gets married. Riken remembered how her mother praised her for being good at everything and how she managed to do everything. But she was unhappy that they didn't have a son. She was insistent that they should have a boy as soon as possible. In conversations on the subject, she was not restrained and not infrequently hurled insults. Lawrence's sister often said that her mother did not change, and Riken's plight was to be tolerated. Harold tried to shield Riken from all talk from his family, but he was having a hard time doing so. Riken came to him and saw him drinking alone. He apologized for not being able to shield her from everyone. Harold told her that first her mother tortured her, and then her sister came and he found it hard to bear. But Riken said it was fine, and they just drank tea and chatted. No big deal. Shawnee tells Riken that their mother wants to look for a second wife for her brother because she can't accept that they have no heir. And to continue their lineage, they simply need a boy heir. Shawnee realized her brother hadn't said anything to his wife, but she didn't want Riken to be in the dark. Such news sent Riken into shock. Riken didn't tell her daughter until she was of age. Her daughter was shocked and could only ask how her mother put up with such a thing. Riken reassured her daughter by saying that Grandma was old school. Girls had put up with worse before. Riken said calmly and with a smile that it was all behind her. Riken chatted politely with the older ladies. Suddenly, Harold's mother suggested that they go into the garden and take a walk, citing that they would be more interesting than here. Riken agreed, and they went for a walk. As they walked, Harold said that at first he didn't understand why Mother insisted he come, but when he saw Riken, he understood everything. He said her father was a respectful, distinguished man, and he would hardly allow them to be together. Riken said their fathers get along very well. The girl recalled that they had no common interests in the past. He was busy with business and she with creativity. Riken asked the young man what he was doing now. Harold said he is very busy as he is involved in the family business, manages the mines and raises the family income. Riken wasn't surprised by the answer. The answer was the same then as now. He was confident of his superiority in the field of business. But unfortunately, it was only a bluff. They entered the greenhouse. Riken was delighted by the beauty of the flowers. Harold asked the girl, puzzled, why all women like to receive flowers as a gift if you can buy something more valuable, and it will be useful and pleasing to the eye longer than flowers. Riken was surprised at her reasoning. She'd been missing him for over 20 years, but she'd never seen him like this. Riken said that when someone gives flowers, they are showing their feelings. A man rejoices in the moment. The herald thought about what he had heard and said that one should think more about feelings than about the value of the gift. Riken remembered that Harold's sister had told her that somewhere during this period he had dated a Mage girl against his mother's wishes. But they later broke off their relationship. Riken asked Harold if he had a favorite person. Harold replied that she was an ordinary person, but she was no match for a lady like Riken. Riken was in complete shock. How could you say that about the person you love? The girl was at a loss for words and couldn't say anything. The young lady suddenly thought that maybe he too had been reborn, But he didn't remember their daughter, their life. It was no longer their reality. Harold looked at her. The girl was pale and confused. He suggested she leave the event and rest. Reichen agreed. As he escorted Reichen to the carriage, he timidly asked if he had inadvertently offended her. The girl said it was fine and she had a lot of fun. Returning home, Reichen thought the future had changed. She didn't know what she should do or the right thing to do, only speculated. Reichen knew that even reborn, she still lacked wisdom. Reichen sat in thought. Penny brought her some teas and some sweets to improve her mood. Reichen said she's fine and doesn't need cheering up. It's just cold outside, so she's sad. Reichen asked Penny if she was going on a date. Penny asked, puzzled. By chance, Reichen wasn't upset that the girl would be absent. Reichen said she had nothing to do with it, and added that the girl should definitely go just for a little while. Otherwise, Reichen will worry. Also, the young mistress said it would be cold and gave her handkerchief. Penny was surprised and didn't want to take it as it was very expensive. But Reichen insisted, and Penny thanked her and took the handkerchief. Reichen was going through the mail and saw a letter from Stermelt. She never texted him like she was going to. Stelmer wrote about the weather and also made sure to mention that he misses her a lot and wants to get back to meet her soon. The young man asked if she missed him. As soon as Reichen finished reading the letter, she was called to dinner. Her family had eaten heavily. The mother and her brother said they each had their own things to do and left the table. Reichen was left alone with her father. Dad said he wanted to drink her tea. The girl made tea and they drank. The man said that Reichen has been very calm lately. He thought back to when she was very young. The Viscount asked the girl if she had prepared for the ball. Reichen said she had everything ready and was told what would follow. Her father asked with warmth in his voice if she liked Stermeld. The girl decided not to answer. She evasively said that she understood the whole situation about the young man. After talking to her father some more, the girl went to her room. Reichen was walking down the hallway and thinking how tired she was. Suddenly, from under the curtain, she saw a shoe. Looking in, the girl saw Penny. She was shocked at the sight of her. Reichen led Penny to her room and began asking what had happened to her. Penny says she made a mistake and she's so young and still single. She was very scared and very upset. Reichen calmed her down by telling her that she needed to wash and sleep, and in the morning they would talk and solve the problem. All night, Reichen pondered the difficult situation. She knew what happened to maids who got pregnant before the wedding. That one wrong move could have ruined Penny's whole life. In the morning, Reichen woke Penny up and told her to get ready quickly. She wanted to take her to the Mage Tower. Since Reichen had heard rumors that many aristocrats had found a way to get rid of children, they arrived at the tower. As they came out, they talked a little and saw the Baroness. But Reichen reassured Penny by telling her that no one would recognize them. When they entered the tower, a young youth saw them. He asked what had brought them out so early in the morning. He asked Reichen if she urgently wanted to contact Stermeld. But Reichen said she needed a blood mage. The young man was puzzled and directed them to the mage. Everyone around knew that the most popular potion with girls was a potion for unwanted pregnancies. Gerald led them in and Reichen thanked him. They sat waiting for the mage. Reichen said she thought about letting her make the decision herself, but she changed her mind. She knew that man wasn't right for her at all. Penny said it was her fault and he said he loved her. But Reichen told her that if he loved her, he wouldn't have beaten her. Adding she said she would be against their wedding and would not allow anyone to hurt her. The girl cried and thanked Reichen. Their conversation was broken by the arrival of a mage. Reichen apologized to the mage for having to wait while they talked. The mage said he didn't want to go in while they were talking. Reichen saw a man of advanced age who held a high position in the Mage Tower. The man asked what they needed a blood mage for. Reichen said there's a possibility that Penny's pregnant, and so they're looking for a cure. With one wave of his hand, the mage put Penny to sleep and she fell easily onto Reichen. The man told Reichen not to be scared. He was only putting the girl to sleep, as the procedure could be painful for her. He assured Reichen that using magic would be far better than poisoning her body with drugs. However, few mages use magic. It's easier to give them a cure. Reichen asked him not to tell anyone. The man said everything that happens in the tower stays in the tower. Reichen thanked him heartily. The mage said since Reichen had to come to him at a time like this, she was a very thoughtful hostess. Reichen said she cared a lot about Penny and wanted to do whatever it took to make her happy. The mage said they had time to have tea while the maid slept. The magician said he wanted to find out from the lady what kind of person she was. In his opinion, she has influenced Sterel, and he now wants to take the title. She has softened him up. But Reichen said that's not true. Reichen knew for a fact that this was not the case, because in the future he did choose a title and entered the secular society. The man said he noticed her watching as he used magic. Reichen said she knew a time mage. The mage asked if she was talking about the mage who had put the protection of time on her. Reichen was puzzled. The man said there are no more time mages in the tower, so that means she's from another time. Reichen couldn't believe her daughter could do such a thing, and now realized why she had said such strange things back then. Reichen remembered hearing her sad voice as she was dying. The man asked if she was okay. The girl replied thoughtfully that it was all right. The mage apologized and told her not to think he was interrogating her, he was just curious. Back home, they were met by the nanny. She was very concerned. Nanny asked the girls what had happened and where they were and said she should report to Mother what was happening, but Reichen said there was no need and she would tell her everything herself. Reichen sent Penny to rest and went to bed herself. Reichen lay in bed and couldn't understand how her daughter had managed to bring the man back in time. Reichen knew her daughter was capable of minor magic, but she didn't think her daughter could do such a thing. A daughter was everything to Reichen, and she was happy. She loved those moments when they were together, and she would never trade them either. The girl was her princess. Reichen cried and blamed herself for everything. She knew she had to meet Harold, so she wrote a letter to Sterel and sent it by bird. The girl thanked him for everything, for all the warm moments near him, for his kindness to her, but asked him to end it there and sent the bird away. Sterel sat drinking tea with his grandfather and mother. The grandfather asked his grandson if it was true that a messenger from the king had come to see him. Sterel said that a man arrived on behalf of the king and presented him with a precious gift, and he sent it back. Also, Sterel said he wants to enter the community and take the title. His family was puzzled by his decision. His grandfather immediately asked if it had anything to do with him dating someone. Mother was surprised that he was seeing someone. Sterel said he is courting the daughter of Viscount Copland. Upon hearing this, grandfather said that she did not fit his title and he had better choose a princess as his wife. Sterel said he is not after power and force. He also added that after all the status issues, he will officially propose to her, and upon his return to the capital, he will swear an oath to the princess. He just wanted to deal with something they'd been putting off for a long time. Mother asked him to take his time and put it all off until next year. But Sterel said he was going to the ball with the lady and wanted to have a status by then that she would feel comfortable with. Their conversation was interrupted by a bird that brought a letter to Sterel. He read it and was shocked at the contents. He told his family that he urgently needed to return to the capital. Reichen was resting when suddenly her brother came running to her. He's worried about his sister, so he brought goodies. Reichen said she was fine, she just needed to rest. The boy ran away. Nanny said that Mother wanted to see Reichen. The girl said she would come to her later and asked where Penny was. The nanny said the girl was called by the head maid, and she went to her. Reichen was furious. She told the nanny to go immediately and bring them both to her. In the meantime, she's going to see her mother. Reichen walked toward her mother and wondered why the maid had called Penny, and then it came to her that it was the woman who had introduced them. The head maid was to blame for what happened. The head maid was chatting with a man. He thanked her for giving him the opportunity to meet Penny. He paid her in gratitude and told her he needed to deal with the aftermath of the meeting. The maid assured him that she would take care of it herself and asked him to leave quickly. Penny came to the head maid. The maid said that the girl had herself to blame and should take responsibility for her actions and get married. Penny was furious and said she wouldn't marry him and would stay to work in the house. Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of the babysitter. She said Mrs. Reichen wanted to see them both. When they came to the room, they saw the butler. The head maid thought to herself that Reichen was taking a lot on herself and considered herself the mistress of the house. Reichen asked Penny to go clean her room. Penny's gone. Reichen asked the head maid if she knew the fruit merchant well enough to light him to her. The maid said she didn't know what she was talking about. Reichen said she knew everything, that she made deals with men and introduced them to young maids, and there have been more than a few such cases. The maid said she didn't see anything wrong with it. After all, someone needs to represent young men, and everyone was eager to get to know each other. Reichen said that Penny showed up with spots on her face and she was alarmed. If the maid is involved, she's in trouble. And from now on, she must not introduce them to other men. Girls have to choose their own dates. The girl emphatically asked not to make any trouble, and not to spoil the reputation of neither herself nor her mother. After listening to everything Reichen said, the maid said it wouldn't happen again. Reichen let everyone go. Reichen told the butler that he had told his father to break the contract with him immediately. She also said she didn't want to cross paths with that man in town anymore. The butler said he'd do it and left. The nanny asked Reichen how Penny was doing. Reichen said it was all right. She managed to get away from him, but he slammed her head against the wall. The nanny said she'd keep it a secret. Penny was crying in the room as she heard everything. She thanked Reichen for all she had done. Reichen was talking to her mom. The mother was shocked at what was happening. She said the girl did the right thing in this situation and she supports her. But the mother was a little surprised and pleased at this behavior of her daughter. The woman said that the man had been married several times and the last wife had run away from him at dawn. She also said she fired the head maid. Reichen thought that if she had died then, her daughter could later heal her soul in time. And so she decided to make a different choice. But Reichen told herself that they would definitely meet. It was very nasty weather, heavy downpour. The nanny told Reichen that she needed some food, but the girl said she wanted to go to bed early and didn't want to eat anything. She walked to her room and pondered the bird. She wondered if he had gotten the letter or not. When the girl entered the room, she was shocked. That's where Sterel stood. He bombarded her with questions in a hurry, but the girl only asked how one got here. He changed in front of her for his much-named appearance, but he knew she didn't want to see him, so he came here. The girl asked if he was the one who made the hurricane, but he replied that it was much easier to advance downwind. Sterel wanted to hear her explanation about the note. The girl said it says it all and apologized again. He didn't understand her. He listed a bunch of reasons to break up, but Reichen said that wasn't the reason. Then he asked if the head reason was that he was a child out of wedlock. He was puzzled. But Reichen said she had her own problems and reasons for turning him away. And his title has nothing to do with it, and the fact that he's an illegitimate son is irrelevant. She doesn't care. She knew she would be from afar, looking at him and remembering those moments, when they were around. She told Sterel that it was stupid of her to do that. She didn't want to go that far. She will marry a baron and be. Of course, he wouldn't compare to him, and her heart wouldn't flutter like it did next to Sterel. But she will have a daughter, and that will be her joy. She said he didn't need to change his plans for someone like her. Hearing all her words, he was devastated. She shattered him and all his dreams. He didn't want to force her to apologize and left. She shouted after him. Sterel came to an audience with the princess and asked her to allow him to have a title. He said she shouldn't worry. He had no claim to the throne. The girl was puzzled. Asked how his mother was doing, but he said she didn't need to worry. He didn't need the throne, adding that he would have no heir, so no one would interfere with her reign. The princess was shocked, but it was to her advantage, so she was fine with it, and she approved of his decision. Sterel was talking to his teacher. He wanted to know why on earth the apprentice had decided to take the title, but he only replied that he wished he could figure it out soon at all, and accept the inevitable. The teacher said that Sterel still hadn't grown up and didn't fully understand the girl. She doesn't care about titles, so it's something else. Sterel looked at the teacher and said if he said that, then he knew her well. The elderly mage said he wondered what kind of person he was, and it was enough for him to see her once to find out. The mage said to get Sterel to stop thinking about his own problems and start taking care of others so he wouldn't hurt himself and his loved ones. Sterel didn't know what he should do. The teacher told him to rest and think things over. Sterel came home and thought about the situation. He was disturbed by the butler saying that his sister and her friend had come to visit Sterel. He was puzzled by their appearance. He wanted to be alone and think things over. Stelmer entered the house and saw his sister and her friend. It was Lady Kylie Wayne. His sister asked to join them for tea, but Stermeld refused, citing that he was soaked in the rain. The girl asked for a moment of their time, but Stermeld said he had urgent business to attend to and had to go. He walked away, Lady Wayne staring intently at his back. The girl was angry and displeased. She told her friend that she had an emergency at home and had to go. Scylla came into the room to see Stermeld. She was very upset and hollered. The girl said he answered the lady very rudely, and she followed him out of the house. He was puzzled. Stermeld apologized and said he was very harsh with her friends, and it won't happen again. In turn, Scylla apologized for her harshness towards her brother. Next, they engaged in casual conversation. The girl said she wanted to talk to him. Lady Kylie Wayne has no partner for the ball, and his sister has asked him to go with her. Stelmer politely declined. The sister asked Stermeld if he was definitely going to buy a house and move. He said that when he gets the title, he should live separately and start a family. Stelmer looked at his sister and realized that she and Reichen are only 2 years apart, but his sister is like a child and Reichen is a young woman. Stelmer was desperate. He was slowly burning from the inside out. He told himself that if he saw her, he would take another step. Reichen wanted to launch the bird, but she didn't act on it. She realized that this was definitely the end and said goodbye to him. Stelmer accepted the title from the princess, and he became Duke of Sagna. The awarding of the title, everyone was discussing. The men were sure that everything had already been decided, and they were in for a big shock. Stelmer met with Ador Raft. Toth said that Stermerd had started seeing the princess very often for the second time in a week. He also asked if he was okay and asked to show up at least once in a while. Stelmer said he has a lot on his plate and a complete backlog of paperwork, so also a bunch of issues in a new house. A friend came to see Reichen. She was glad to see her. The girl questioned Reichen about her and Stermeld. She was shocked that he left her. Reichen said she was the one who broke up with him, but it's all gone now, so it's all good. The girl couldn't believe what she was hearing. A friend asked if she was ready for the holiday. Reichen said the dress would be ready today. They talked some more, and the girl said she had to hit the road, as she had to get ready. Reichen wished her a good journey and escorted her out. Reichen was getting ready. Mother saw her and said she looked very beautiful. The maid came and said that the Baron had arrived. The maid brought her shoes. Reichen chose shoes specifically for her outing with Baron. Reichen came out to herald, and they walked to the wagon. On the way to the ball, the girl once again thanked the young man for agreeing to go with her. He said he was honored to accompany her to such an event, adding that his mother likes her a lot. The girl said she was very happy when his mother suggested his candidacy. Reichen knew him better than anyone and knew what he was going through. She knew that this time she would live a happy life. Before leaving, Reichen said that if he didn't want to sit, they could do a dance and leave. He said it's not his holiday and he can't decide. Reichen met her friends at the ball. They began to discuss their dresses, as they suddenly noticed Baron Raft and Lady Wayne enter. The girls were discussing the stately Baron. He was 24 and without a date. That's why all the girls dreamed of him. The girls jokingly asked Reichen if she happened to know the Baron. The music started. There was a commotion as someone arrived. It turned out that Stermeld had come to the ball. The girl stared at him in a daze. Her friends asked if she was okay. She was very pale. Reichen hurriedly went to the restroom. The girl thought it was okay and she let him go. But no. Reichen was sitting in the break room when the babysitter came in. She said that the girl had acted unkindly toward the Baron and the others. The girl was in agreement, and she said she would make it right. The nanny looked at Reichen and said she looked great. The nanny's gone. Reichen stood for a moment longer, gathering her thoughts. Walking down the road to her friend's house, Reichen met Lady Wayne. The girl said that Reichen was supposed to come with Stermeld, but at the end came with Baron. She didn't understand how she could turn away someone Wayne desired. The girl was furious and said that by her refusal the lady had behaved unseemly and that she was late Stermeld. Lady Wayne, reprimanded Reichen like a schoolgirl. He was furious at the situation. She asked how she wasn't ashamed of her behavior. Reichen says he's not right for her and she doesn't dare get close to him. but the lady was even angrier at her for those words. And she said she didn't have to start it at all if she couldn't handle it. Riken said that she had already apologized to the Duke, and only he would decide whether to forgive her or not, and that there was no need for them to quarrel. They could just sit down and spend the evening peacefully. The girls didn't give up. They decided to punish Riken a bit, and accidentally missed the wine glass on her dress. Stelmer arrived just in time. He made the wine glass freeze in midair. He was angry and asked what was going on. The girls got nervous and hastily said hello to him. They said Riken wasn't feeling well, and they offered her a glass of wine. Stelmer looked at it and said he thought it was all wrong. He asked Riken what was wrong. The girl said nothing happened. He gave her a hand and told her to get up. Lady Wayne saw him and rushed to him at once. She wanted to explain herself, but he said he knew who influenced them and that he was disappointed. Stelmer led Riken outside. The girl thanked him and apologized for bothering him. Stelmer said he did it for her, not because of the title. Riken said with a stone face that she was a little late with her congratulations, bowed, and congratulated him on his new title. She said that with his new title, he would find a suitable candidate for a wife, and they'll be happy together. He walked over to Riken to ask if she was okay, as she was very pale. If she's having trouble sleeping. She said she was fine. And on top of that, she said they weren't meant to be together. Riken said that she was just playing with him, and that he shouldn't waste his time with her. Stelmer asked her she had become a baroness. He asked her if she had found what she was looking for in him, if she would be happy around him. Stelmer said that as hard as it was for him, he wished she knew of his love. She cried in despair at his words. He said he would have her answer to his eyes that he was not important to her. She said in tears that her daughter was more important to her. The girl told everything in desperation. That she is not a young girl, but a 45-year-old woman who has a daughter. Told me how she'd flipped over in the wagon. She was screaming and sobbing, telling it. He was in shock. Riken screamed that it was true and she wasn't crazy. Riken screamed that she must meet that child. He put his arms around her, trying to comfort her. He led Riken into his house and told them that no one would disturb or bother them here, gave her a handkerchief. The girl gave an embarrassed thank you and said he looked at Riken and realized that the teacher was right. He remembered his words. Stelmer said she may have just had a broadcast that she mistook for reality. After all, if she was brought back in time, it was a blow to all living things. He tried to speak gently about the process of magical return and its consequences. The girl was shocked by what she heard. Stelmer asked what kind of person decided to sacrifice herself and bring her back in time. The girl said it was her daughter. She's a time mage. The girl cried at not being able to see her. Stelmer said he didn't want to upset the girl, but he wanted her to know the truth. Her daughter couldn't be transferred into the same body at the same time. It goes against all the laws of magic. Magic will not allow her to be reborn. Even if she is transferred, she will have a different soul in the same body. The girl didn't understand how this could be. She didn't scream at him and cried frantically. Stelmer said that if he were a time mage, he would do the same. Turned back the clock so that his family would live the life they wanted to live. Stelmer said that if he could, he would definitely fix his mother's life. Because he wants her to be happy, she lives for him. And he, in turn, lives for his mother. He'd want to do everything in his power to make her happy. He tried to explain to her that her going back to her old life was a vicious cycle. He assured her daughter wanted what was best for her, and she would certainly do it again for her. Riken didn't know what to do. She couldn't forget her. She cried on his shoulder. Stelmer reassured her. She said that her daughter loved her very much and had done it out of love for her. They talked to her for a long time about her daughter. She cried, but was glad he was there for me. After a long conversation, he confessed his love for her. Stelmer said her parents were on their way over. Riken said they'd better get downstairs, and that parents will scold. They were on their way to a meeting. Stelmer said that after talking to her, he would not allow her to marry the Baron and would fight for her. Riken was at the estate under the care of a nanny. Nanny said a lot of people saw them, and rumors about them might start. Mother, reprimanded Riken. Reichen brought her a letter from Stermelt. He was inviting their entire family to his estate. Reichen asked if she could answer. Mother said she would do what she wanted to do anyway. Their discussion was interrupted by Penny. She said she had visitors. Reichen went and saw Lady Wayne. The girl came to apologize. Reichen accepted the apology but said she'd already forgotten that day, so that was fine. Wayne was even angrier at her than before.